There is a version of you that existed before you learned to make yourself small, before you learned that your feelings were too much, before you learned to apologize for simply being in the room, before you learned that your feelings were too much, before you learned to apologize for simply being in the room, that asked for things without bracing for the answer. That version of you did not disappear. They are still there, carrying everything that was never dealt with, still waiting, still hoping, still needing what they never got. Psychologists call this the inner child, and today, Sky is going to sit with you and finally introduce you to the part of yourself you have been running from for years. And today, Sky is going to sit with you and finally introduce you to the part of yourself you have been running from for years. You overreact to small things, and then you hate yourself for overreacting. You cannot handle when someone is even slightly disappointed in you. Your whole nervous system goes into emergency mode. You find it almost impossible to ask for help, even when you are drowning, even when you are desperate. Something in you says, figure it out yourself. Do not be a burden. You people please constantly. You shrink yourself in every room. You hold back opinions. You hold back feelings. You hold back you. You fall into relationships where you give everything and receive very little. And somehow it feels more familiar than love that is easy. You struggle to feel joy that is not earned, rest that is not deserved, love that does not come with conditions attached. These are not personality flaws. These are not just who you are. These are the fingerprints of a child who needed something they never received and grew up still needing it, in an adult body, in adult situations, with a child's unhealed heart. Your inner child is not a metaphor. It is a real psychological wound. The inner child is not a spiritual concept. It is not a self-help trend. It is a real psychological framework developed by some of the most respected minds in therapy. Carl Jung called it the wounded child. John Bradshaw called it the wounded inner child. Modern trauma therapists call it the part of your psyche frozen at the age the wound occurred. Here is what that means. When something painful happens to a child, something they do not have the emotional tools to process, their brain does something very intelligent. It stores it, not in memory the way adults store things, in the body, in the nervous system, in the patterns of behavior that the child develops to survive that environment. And those patterns, those survival strategies, become the operating system the adult runs on. The child who is never comforted becomes the adult who cannot accept comfort. The child who is criticized constantly becomes the adult who is their own harshest critic. The child who had to be strong for everyone else becomes the adult who does not know how to be weak. The child who was abandoned, emotionally or physically, becomes the adult who pushes people away before they can leave, or who clings so tightly they push people away anyway. Every pattern, every trigger, every response that feels too big for the situation. That is not you being dramatic. That is a child inside you still responding to an old danger that no longer exists. That is a child inside you still responding to an old danger that no longer exists. Psychologists have identified 5 core wounds that the inner child carries. Psychologists have identified 5 core wounds that the inner child carries. The first wound is abandonment. Not just physical abandonment, emotional abandonment. A parent who was physically present but emotionally absent, who never asked how you felt, who was too consumed by their own pain to see yours. The adult version of this wound is a desperate fear of being left. The second wound is rejection. Being made to feel that who you are is fundamentally not enough, not smart enough, not quiet enough, not easy enough, not the right kind of child. The adult version of this wound is the inability to believe that anyone could truly choose you and stay. The third wound is humiliation, being shamed, publicly, privately, for your body, your emotions, your mistakes, your needs. The adult version of this wound is crushing self-consciousness, the feeling that everyone is always watching, always judging. The adult version of this wound is crushing self-consciousness, always finding you lacking. The fourth wound is betrayal. Someone who was supposed to protect you did not. Someone who promised something broke it. Someone you trusted used that trust against you. The adult version of this wound is an inability to trust anyone. including yourself. And the fifth wound, the one almost nobody talks about, is injustice. Being treated unfairly and having no voice to say so. Being told your feelings were wrong. Being punished for things that were not your fault. And learning that the world is not fair and you have no power in it. The adult version of this wound is rigidity. Perfectionism. A desperate need to control everything around you because as a child you could control nothing. Which wound do you recognize in yourself? Which wound do you recognize in yourself? Here is where your inner child shows up today. You are in a meeting. Your manager gives feedback. Mild, professional, completely normal. And your heart rate doubles. Your face flushes. Your eyes sting. You feel like a child being told off. That is not a professional response. That is your inner child responding to a parent. Someone you love goes quiet for a day. They are just tired, just busy. But your brain goes into full catastrophe mode. What did I do? Are they leaving? Do they hate me now? That is not anxiety. That is your inner child. You achieve something real. And the moment it is over, you feel nothing. Because resting in achievement was never safe. Because someone always found the flaw. That is your inner child. You meet someone wonderful, kind, consistent, safe, and you find a reason to doubt them, or to push them, or to leave before they can. That is your inner child protecting you from a hurt that already happened. Your inner child does not know that time has passed. They only know what they learned, and they are doing everything they can to keep you safe from it happening again. Your inner child is not sabotaging you. They are protecting you. They are doing everything they can to keep you safe from it happening again. Reparenting. It is the most important word in this entire conversation. Reparenting. It is the most important word in this entire conversation. And it does not mean going back to your parents. It does not mean confronting them, or forgiving them, or cutting them off. Reparenting means becoming the parent your inner child needed. You, as you are now, with everything you know, with all the compassion you give to everyone else, turned inward, toward yourself, toward the child inside you who is still waiting. It means when you feel that surge of panic because someone went quiet, instead of spiraling, you pause, and you say to yourself, I know this feels scary. I know this feels like last time, but I am safe. I am an adult. It means when you make a mistake, instead of the immediate flood of shame and self-attack, you pause, and you say, I made a mistake. That is allowed. I am still worthy. I am still enough. I am learning. It means choosing rest without earning it first, choosing joy without waiting for permission, choosing yourself in small ways every single day until your nervous system finally starts to believe that you are safe, that you are loved, that you are enough. Not because someone told you, but because you finally started telling yourself. 5 things that actually begin to heal your inner child. 5 things that actually begin to heal your inner child. Number 1, meet the trigger with curiosity instead of shame. The next time you overreact, instead of immediately attacking yourself, get curious. Ask, how old do I feel right now? What does this remind me of? Who did I learn this response from? You will be surprised how quickly you can trace a present-day reaction back to a very specific childhood moment, and how much compassion comes when you realize, this is not who I am. This is what happened to me. Number 2, write a letter to your younger self. Not a long one, not a perfect one, just honest. Tell them what you wish someone had told them, that they were not too much, that they deserved better, that none of it was their fault, that they were always enough. Most people cannot finish it without crying, because it is the first time that child has ever been spoken to with kindness. Number 3, give yourself what was missing. If you were never celebrated, celebrate yourself now. Mark your achievements, even the small ones. If you were never comforted, comfort yourself now. A warm drink, a soft blanket, a hand on your own chest. If you were never allowed to play, play now, without a productive reason, because joy is something you are allowed. Number 4, stop abandoning yourself to keep others comfortable. Every time you silence your needs to manage someone else's feelings, your inner child learns that they are still not safe, that they still have to disappear, that they still do not matter. Start small. Say what you actually want for dinner. Decline one thing this week that you do not want to do. Take up one small piece of space that you have been shrinking out of. Every act of choosing yourself is a message to your inner child. You matter now. I will not leave you anymore. Number 5. Be patient with the process. Your inner child did not get these wounds overnight. They will not heal overnight. There will be days where you feel years of progress, and days where you are triggered by something small and feel like nothing has changed. Both of those days are part of the same healing. Healing is not a straight line. It is a spiral. You come back to the same wounds, but each time you come back with more tools, more compassion, more of yourself. I want to speak directly to your inner child for a moment. Not to you, the adult, to them. To the version of you that learned to be small. I want to speak directly to your inner child for a moment. To the version of you that learned to be small, that learned to be quiet, that learned that their feelings were too much, that their needs were a burden, that love came with conditions. What happened to you was not your fault. You were a child. You needed things that every child needs: safety, warmth, to be seen, to be heard, to be told, you are enough, exactly as you are. And if you did not get those things, that was never a reflection of your worth. It was a reflection of the limitations of the people around you. You were not too much. You were not difficult. You were not the problem. You were a child in an environment that did not know how to hold you properly. And now, you are the adult. And you have something nobody gave you then. You have choice. You have awareness. The ability to go back in compassion, your own presence, your own kindness, your own voice saying, I see you. I am here. You are safe now. You do not have to earn your place anymore. You belong. You always belonged. Drop a white heart below if you felt this. Drop a white heart below if you felt this. If something in you recognized itself today. Follow Sky, because you deserve to feel less alone in all of this. And something can unmake it too, starting today.